Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get ready to suck it! Woo! The champ is here!
Buckle up. It's time for a drive-by.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold Jackson.
Dear Fall Nation, say hello to the bald guy. Welcome to Drive By with Shooter. We had a big weekend with the No Mercy pay-per-view. We had some pretty solid matches in that, and some things I want to touch on No Mercy in general. I know I already did my review on our Facebook page, but there were some things I didn't want to get too in depth on in just a review, and I'm going to use my format here to address those things. A lot of people, and these kind of go hand in hand, a lot of people were talking about the John Cena Roman Reigns match and the Brock Lesnar Braun Strowman match, and rightfully so. Those are two matches that deserve to be talked about for whatever reason you want to look at that. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. I don't think anyone could have been indifferent on any of these matches, but some of the complaints that I kind of saw, heard, read, or, however you want to look at it, be it from the average fan to the wrestling podcaster, I don't necessarily agree with, and some, I think need to be looked at from a different aspect, a different angle. But these matches kind of play against each other in a funny way. And what I mean by that is you have Roman Reigns and John Cena, who put on a pretty solid match. And I said this in my review, they use a lot of outside elements to that match. They use the table spot with the announce table. They use 2 stair spots with the ring steps, which I think kind of eliminated some of the things that Brock and Braun could have done. I think it really took away from them. It took away their ability to do certain things in their match as the main event. And that, if there was ever a question I had, because I think this was a solid pay-per-view, but I do wonder, had these two main events been on different shows, if it would have felt different. They could have done more. Each one of them could have done more, could have done some similar things, but one at No Mercy and then say one at TLC. Could have been a different outcome. I don't know. But obviously there was reasons for doing both. I'm hearing that Brock's going to be gone till at least time to set something up for the Royal Rumble. And I've heard that Cena, or we all kind of know Cena's going to be gone for a while because he's filming the new Transformers movie, I believe is what's on schedule for him currently. So that has to play into the reason of why we got both of these matches on the same card on a, I don't want to say a low-level pay-per-view, but not a big marquee name pay-per-view such as No Mercy. But where they hurt each other even more, and this is just common, this goes for everything, but you have Roman Reigns, who they're trying to get over. That's why they're putting him with Cena, let him beat the guy. I really thought that this was going to be more than that. I thought and hoped Cena would win, and we'd get a few matches out of these two, because I think that's a great idea. There's a lot of potential on the table for quality matches with these two in the ring. That being said, the biggest problem I had with the match, and I've lost count at this point in time of recording, it's a few days past, but the amount of attitude adjustments that Roman Reigns took and then was able to kick out of seems quite insane to me. Especially, he didn't just take, a standard AA. He took, I think, 2 standard AAs. No, I'm sorry. I think he took 4 total. He took an AA. Then he took an avalanche AA from the second rope. And then eventually in a match, he took a rolling AA, double rolling AA. So Cena hit the AA, rolled over top of him, and picked him up in the roll and gave him another AA. So 2 in a row with the fancy movement, the show off of strength that Cena has, which is quite impressive. I'm not talking bad about it. I think that's awesome. But he kicked out of all of these, and it kind of plays against everything we see in the next match, because then we go to the Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar match, and, Lesnar gets hit with a few power slams from Strowman, which is Strowman's finisher, or supposed to be his finisher, and he kicks out of that, but then Strowman takes one F5 and loses. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, I have no problem with a finishing move being the last move of the match and it working the first time that it's hit. What I have a problem with is that the average wrestling fan, to even the smarkiest of smarks, does have a problem with that. They don't like that a finishing move is a finishing move anymore. And I can't even put this on the fan base 100%, because we as a fan of pro wrestling, and this is worldwide, like, this is every wrestling organization. This is a problem that we face in professional wrestling today. The fact that finishers, for the most part, don't really mean anything. You have a few guys that are smart and protect their finisher and don't let people kick out of them. I try to look back, but you look in the golden age, and I'm not trying to sit here and say that it's not like it used to be. I mean, it isn't, but how many people kicked out of the Hogan leg drop? How many people kicked out of the Randy Savage elbow drop? I mean, it's just, to me, it's crazy that we devalue these moves just to get near falls. You can get near fall, cheap plug, Near Fall Network. You can get near falls out of any spot, literally any spot. You can get a schoolboy spot. You can get a big, it can be a big power move that leads to a pin that is a 2 count or a 2.5 count. It doesn't have to be strictly a finishing move that gets a near fall that gets the crowd going. If it's a big move or a quick move, the crowd's going to respond. It doesn't have to be an AA. It doesn't have to be a Braun Strowman power slam. It does not have to be any of those things. You can kick out of a normal wrestling move. Now, I think that's also a problem we run into, is we do title these things and call them finishing moves. Oh, we hit him with his finisher or his signature, so it's supposed to be, I guess, special. It's supposed to be a move that's more perfected than the rest of their arsenal. I mean, maybe you have a guy that's known for a stiff kick. You look at real fighting, you look at MMA, someone's known for a stiff kick. Maybe they throw 50 stiff head kicks and trying to hit one. They might not hit them all great, but they hit that one and they're out. But I think that's how we need to look at this, as a legit thing. And that being said, not protecting a finishing move and doing it over and over, it depends on the move. But we could talk in circles about this, because there's so many ways around this. But the bottom line is, we've been conditioned to believe that nobody should be pinned on one finishing move. So when it happens, example, Samoa Joe taking one F5 and getting pinned, now Braun Strowman taking one F5 and getting pinned, everyone flips out. And when you literally have a match before that where John Superman Cena gives his finishing move to the guy 4 times and can't beat him, and he kicks out, Roman Reigns kicks out. And then you see the guy that everybody wants in Braun Strowman literally take Brock Lesnar to task the whole match and then take one finishing move and get pinned. It's going to piss people off, and they're not going to understand, and they're going to feel like Braun's being buried. And Braun wasn't being buried there, guys. Braun looked like a beast. Brock looked good. Braun looked good. Same with the other match. They both looked good, but in different ways. And you're literally contradicting each other. These matches contradicted each other to no end, and it can cause, I don't want to say hatred. Hatred is a strong word, but it causes irritation with the fan base. And it's partially pro wrestling's fault because they've done this to themselves by needing near fall after near fall and thinking that the near fall has to come from a kick out from a guy's finisher. If a guy has a big arsenal of moves that he does as signature moves or 3 or 4 finishers, I haven't studied the matches enough, but let's just say AJ Styles, he doesn't do the Styles Clash all the time. He does the 450 off the rope. He does the phenomenal forearm. He does, the calf crusher. I don't think anyone would have an issue if it was, hey, someone kicked out of the phenomenal forearm and then he beat him with the calf crusher, or someone escaped the calf crusher, he beat him with the phenomenal forearm, or he hit the 450 twice to beat him, but he should only hit that Styles Clash once. You hit that once, it is a tougher move to pull off. It looks better, it looks meaner. No one should kick out of it. If that's the way we're going with these finishing moves, and that's the way it should be. Nobody ever kicks out of a fatality in Mortal Kombat. Let's be honest, guys. So, completely different ballgame. I get it. I'm just saying the lack of continuity when it comes to that and the conditioning of the fan is what causes these kind of uproars. And it's something that could be avoided. It's something that pro wrestling has done to itself and the fans have fed into it, and then we can't do anything to change it, so it pisses us off. And I think we just need to rethink it a little bit, guys. Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman weren't getting buried because they got pinned after one move. That is supposed to be Brock Lesnar's knockout punch, and that's what it was in these situations. And we should just kind of understand that's what it was and be okay with it and move on, because we're getting Brock till WrestleMania 34. So the next guy that is fed to him, hopefully the match looks good. Hopefully he makes his opponent look good before he finishes his opponent with one F5 and walks out with the Universal Championship. Because that's what it's going to be. Guys, we're going to continue this conversation in the next part. A little bit of more of the things I enjoy with No Mercy, and something that we don't see a lot in professional wrestling anymore that I think everybody did a stellar job. I touched on it in a review. I want to expand on it here today. So buckle up. We got a lot more to talk about. I want to continue talking about the good that went down at No Mercy this past Sunday. If you're a fan of this show, this podcast, then you know that I prefer to try and be as positive as possible, especially when I feel that WWE really has done a good job at presenting an entertaining show. Something that I always hear criticized by some veteran wrestlers on podcasts or in articles or interviews is that the current roster of superstars, they don't know how to sell and they don't know how to tell a story. And they definitely, these veterans, the people that make these comments, they're not wrong. And I don't think it's that they don't know how to. It's just not every guy and girl on the roster is a great storyteller or a master at selling. Now, in my opinion, those are two things that really, really can make or break a professional wrestler. Being able to tell an accurate story in the ring and selling the story, selling the moves, and making everything look more realistic and make more sense. I mean, that's important. I would think that that has to be one of the most important things, besides knowing how to do these moves correctly without injuring yourself or another, is selling and storytelling. Well, that being said, No Mercy was full of selling and storytelling. I really didn't see one match where the selling was below average. There were some that were way better than others. Some guys were, and girls were doing it way better than others, selling the moves, making the moves look more painful than they are, giving that little extra sauce onto it. Someone who is a really good person who sells, a superstar that sells really well, is Dolph Ziggler. He's kind of known for it, and sometimes he oversells, and that can be bad too, but he really does a good job at making things look like they hurt. And believe me, guys, I'm not sitting here saying that wrestling doesn't hurt, because I totally understand that it does. But these guys and girls have to put on a show, and they have to continue to move through this stuff, and they have to make it look as believable as possible. No one's going to watch a show where a guy just get dropped on his head and his back 25 times and doesn't react to it, and then he gets punched in the face and he's down. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So it's part of that selling and part of that storytelling. Another example in No Mercy, and I touched a little bit of this on the No Mercy review, but the 5-way women's match and the story they told in that match and how good it was. And they were all different kind of parts to the story. You had the whole thing going with Bliss and Nia and how they were friends and now they're not, and Nia's coming after Bliss's title and Bliss doesn't like it, and when you look at them, they're so polar opposite, and Nia's so big and Bliss is so small, and it's David versus Goliath, and it's a good story, and they're playing off of it. They're playing off the fact that Bliss is mad at her but really doesn't want anything to do with her because she knows she probably can't beat her. Nia is playing the fact that she knows she will beat her, or more than likely will beat her. They played out the story of Bayley and Sasha and where that's going, and I don't know where it's going for sure, but they were stopping each other from getting the pin, which anyone in their right mind would say, well, I want to win that match too, so that's what's going to happen. But that being said, this is something they can expound on the storyline. They were selling the injuries, which is what has to be done, and can also continue further storytelling. With the 4-woman powerbomb on Nia Jax, they were telling the story that Nia Jax is a monster. Nia Jax is, the female equivalent of a Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman. It takes more than, that average, and that is not a slight on any of these women, any of these superstars. But it can take more than the average female superstar to put her down. Has she been beaten by some of these girls? Absolutely. But on a whole, she's bigger and stronger than all of them. So it makes sense to tell that story. They told it with the double Samoan drop that she pulled off on Bliss and Sasha. She had 2 women on her back and did a Samoan drop. I don't care how much those women weigh. And they probably total weigh maybe 125 pounds, or 225 pounds, sorry, when they were both on her back. Maybe. It's still impressive. Human weight's different than weight room weight, and the movement, the balance, and she didn't look like she struggled with that at all. She just took those girls and dumped them right back. It was awesome. So we told the story that Nia is a monster. We told the story that she needs, everyone needs help to beat her. We told a story that Bayley and Sasha are still friends, but man, they both want that title, and eventually that's got to come to a head. We told a story that Emma, I said everyone looked good, and I think Emma looked good. She didn't win. She didn't get like a huge spotlight, but she was hanging with every woman in that match. And we also told the story that Alexa Bliss is a champion. And Alexa Bliss is capable of beating any of the odds to retain that belt that she loves so dearly. It was a beautifully told story. When you move on to the Cena Roman match, it is basically a story of the big dog taking control of his yard. And that's what it was. And I know I kind of bashed on it in the first segment, but the multiple finishing moves that Roman took and kicked out, they were trying to tell us a story that Roman's just that much better and that much more durable and able to take that much more heat. Or maybe the story that Cena's starting to lose a step. There, you could look at that in many different ways, but both the guys sold. You know, I love the fact, and I think he probably did get hurt a little bit, and I hope he's okay, but that spear on the announce table was amazing and nasty looking all at once. I like that both guys sold it. Assuming Roman was planning to do that anyway. I don't think he laid there the way he did and sold it the way he did because he was legit hurt. But, I mean, two guys go through a table, no matter who gives the move, they're both going to be hurting. And that's the way it should be. The storytelling was good. Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman. You even had with, Lesnar hitting the 1 F5 that everyone's mad about with the finishing moves and taking Strowman out. You still had Paul Heyman looking shocked. You kind of had, this look and the storytelling that, hey, we didn't know this was going to happen this way, and we were able to put him down and keep this Universal Championship on the beast, Brock Lesnar, once again. Storytelling and selling are two key parts to professional wrestling, and I hope that this is a good sign that this is something that is being emphasized more, and they're going to focus on it more and be better at it. I can't leave you guys without talking about the Young Bucks and the cease and desist and the Raw invasion, and I can't be happier that all the news of the two cease and desist from WWE came down before I finished recording this thing, because I got a lot to talk about. Hang tight. Oh, and it's just too sweet. Welcome back. This past Monday, the Young Bucks and the Bullet Club invaded Monday Night Raw. Hashtag BC Invasion. They did this and recorded it for part of their YouTube show, Being the Elite. If you're not familiar with Being the Elite, it kind of started out as the Young Bucks documenting their life, kind of their time on the road, the matches they were doing, checking in with their friends and family, things like that. And it kind of turned into a whole different animal, which is a lot more entertaining. They do these crazy, wacky storylines and involve different things. They've killed Adam Cole on Being the Elite. Different things like that just are outlandish, funny. I really actually enjoy the show myself. I was a little late to the party. I'm catching up on very old episodes. I'm up to date with the current storylines that they are doing. So that being said, I want to look at this Bullet Club invasion of Monday Night Raw two different ways. And I'm going to go right off the bat and go as someone who watches Being the Elite and understands what the Young Bucks and the rest of the Bullet Club are doing with that show. The Raw invasion was awesome. It was well done for the show. It was put together in a very entertaining way. I don't know, they claim they got that crowd there from a few hours' notice they were going to be there. I don't know if that's true. I don't really care if that's true. But the way they shot the show, the way they put the storyline together, everything that was put into it, very enjoyable. I laughed my ass off at Cody Rhodes standing on the back of the car and giving the speech. That actually was the same identical speech from the movie Independence Day. Just little things that made it very entertaining and very fun to watch. So on the side of this being part of their Being the Elite web show, bravo Bullet Club, another great episode in the can. Now, here is where Shooter goes from the bald guy to the bad guy. And get ready to hate. It's just the way it is. If you're a hardcore Bullet Club fanboy, you're not going to want to hear this. Here it goes. If you are watching this as someone who does not pay attention to the Young Bucks, maybe knows of the Young Bucks, but isn't a big ROH fan, New Japan fan, whatever, Bullet Club fan, however you want to term it, is someone who does not know about Being the Elite, or knows but doesn't watch Being the Elite, is not informed in that way or knowledgeable in that form of entertainment and what is going on in the world of the Young Bucks and the Elite and the Bullet Club via the storylines they create on Being the Elite. If you are looking at it from that side, this is pathetic, guys. This is horrendous. This is a horrible, underthought, underproduced, undermanaged attempt to copy what was done in the 90s with D-Generation X and the WCW invasion. I don't want to break your heart, Bullet Club fanboys and girls, but to the outside eyes, that's all it is. I had some people put some things out, and if you're familiar with South Park, they always kind of do this Simpsons Did It episode where the Simpsons already did everything you could possibly do as an idea for a show or idea for anything, because Simpsons always seem to do things in shows and have storylines that actually end up happening in the world in real life. I actually put hashtag DX did it because they did. Even if you watch the tweets and the videos that they sent out before they actually produced the Being the Elite YouTube show, and you hear some of the things they say, they're saying the same things that DX went to WCW and said. They're talking about Raw papering the show and giving away free tickets, which I don't know if that happened. I have yet to ever hear that before or hear if it's been confirmed. I know they discount tickets the end of show day, but I don't know if that's true. They said they have their friends, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, Finn Balor. They're here to save you. Please release them. Let them out. DX did that. Here you have our friends, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Please let them go. Please release them. We did that, guys. And it comes off as being a bad parody. And that's how it's going to look to outside eyes who are not in the Bullet Club bubble, or not in the Being the Elite bubble, and know what's going on that side. Especially if you're a hardcore WWE fan and that is the only thing that matters to you. This now makes you hate these guys because it's not done in a way that you know what's going on if you don't know about Being the Elite. Now, as I said, I thought it was great and I liked it, but when I look at it from that perspective, I think they did themselves a disservice. If they really wanted to make waves, what they should have done, maybe it wouldn't have been possible, but they should have got tickets and they should have went and they should have been in the arena and made their faces seen. Maybe they weren't allowed due to Ring of Honor contracts. I don't know, but Ring of Honor could always use exposure. That's not a bad thing. And maybe they were afraid that would, they would go in and WWE would do everything they could to keep them off camera. They're not going to rush the ring. That's ridiculous. And that would just be a whole nother situation for Ring of Honor, for them as individuals. So that wouldn't happen. But I think there could have been some things they could have done differently while doing the same thing that they did to make it seem fresh and unique and not, let me, no pun intended, break it down for you. The Young Bucks, to people who are not Young Buck fans, pretty much get accused of gimmick stealing and being knockoffs of DX and the NWO, along sometimes with the Bullet Club. Now, if you already have that knock on you by people who are outside of your fan base, and then you willingly and knowingly go and record a skit and spread it on social media of you doing exactly what DX did back during the Monday Night Wars, you have to assume this is not going to work out for you. And here's where it really didn't work out for them. They literally got a cease and desist to stop using the too sweet hand gesture, which I'm not going to get into how ridiculous I think that is on the part of WWE. I don't actually think that's Vince McMahon sitting there doing that. I think he has better things to worry about. I've always heard stuff like that comes right from the legal department anyway. But if nothing else, you ruffled somebody's feathers and you're pissing somebody off. You know, it even sounds so much to say that it's pertaining only to the Young Bucks who cannot use that gesture anymore. That's who they're threatening. They're not threatening the Bullet Club, and everybody in the Bullet Club does it. They've adopted it just like the NWO adopted it. But according to everything I've heard from the cease and desist, this is solely the Young Bucks who they're saying can't use it. They're not saying Cody can't use it. They're not saying Hangman Page can't use it. You know, they're not saying Kenny Omega can't use it or any of the other guys in the Bullet Club. They're basically saying the Young Bucks are not allowed to use that, or they'll be sued for, I believe, $150,000. So, you know, when you're a group that's known for kind of, and I'm referring to the Young Bucks here, being gimmick thieves, and you've turned WWE contracts down, and then you go spit in the WWE's face, what do you think's going to happen? And if you really do consider yourself the threat that you think you are to the WWE, what do you think's going to happen? Are they just going to sit there and ignore you? Maybe you can take this as maybe looking at it as a positive, as, hey, we are a threat. They're going after us, so obviously we worry them. And that's a great way to look at it. But you also did yourself a disservice, because now this is something that's on your plate that you didn't even have to have on your plate. And I really don't think you have anyone to blame but yourself. Do I think it's ridiculous that a hand gesture could even be trademarked? Absolutely. And I don't think there's any grounds for this. I don't think that WWE actually has anything to stand by on this, because they didn't originate it anyway. And again, it's a hand gesture. It's ridiculous. And I think that's silly, but I'm not even going to touch on that. I'm just saying, you poke the bear, you get bit. Guys, thanks for checking out Drive By this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check everything else out we have going on the Near Fall Network, on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel here right now. Hit that subscribe button right up top so you don't miss any drive-bys, any Monday Night Wars repackaged and delivered in a beautiful format for you guys, and everything else that is coming up on the Near Fall Network. As I say every week, it's been real, it's been fun. We'll catch you next time.